Hey everyone, welcome to the Lessons from the Tank podcast. This week, my guest is Matt from Hug Sleep. If you didn't see his episode, you have to check it out. He had all 5 sharks pairing up and battling to invest in his company. The amazing part is that he did all of this with only a $2,500 investment. If you want to know what it takes to bootstrap, start something, and grow it to a multi-million-dollar company, this is the episode for you. I hope that you get a lot from it because I know that I did. Hey, Matt, thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. I much like you, I did a lot of interviews and podcasts right after airing and then, through the year and a half after, but never with another person who had that experience of walking down that long hallway. So it's a lot of fun having these conversations with what I'll call like foxhole brothers. We have this shared experience.
Yeah, I think it's such a almost traumatic experience, both in a positive way. It's so different and unique that not too many people have experienced it. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah. By the way, I saw your episode when it originally aired, and then I watched it again in preparation for this, and I got goosebumps. I mean, you guys did such a great job, and the fact that you guys had like multiple sharks pairing up, going against each other, that was fantastic. I mean, you had to be like, I know for me, it was this out of body experience when they started talking deals. For you, it had to be overwhelming. Like, oh my God, what is happening here? Like, these people are pairing up. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was wild. Going into it, we had no idea what to expect. We knew we had pretty good numbers, but our product, which we sell, Sleep Pod, is kind of unique to say the least. And we know it's unique and kind of weird, but it works, and there's a lot of people that have benefited from it. So just for people listening that may not be familiar with the product, essentially it's an adult swaddle. So you can think of it as this undersized sleeping bag made from this really specialized, soft, stretchy material, so that when you go inside, this fabric wants to stretch and then compress, and it uses this kind of compression to provide a gentle, calming pressure, similar to what you'd find in a weighted blanket. So it's kind of all the same science behind weighted blankets, just repackaged in a unique way. So visually, it looks very different. So going into the show, we knew it would kind of get the attention of the sharks, and we just didn't really have any expectations. Within the first 30 seconds after our pitch, we asked Robert Herjavec to come up and to demonstrate the product. And we had prepared, for countless hours on our pitch. We even went through, me and my wife kind of role playing. I'd be Robert. She would walk me through how to use the product. We really over prepared. And never in our wildest imaginations did we think that Robert would, kind of be playing up for the camera and purposely fall off the bed like he did in our episode. And when he did, he kind of smacked his face a little bit on the end table, and his nose was busted up. So that happened within the first, 30 seconds after our pitch. And my life flashed before my eyes. I was like, all right, this is it. I'm done. Me and my wife were the face of the company. I was doing this full time as my job at the time. So I'm like, well, my life is done. But we kind of recovered. The numbers kind of spoke for themselves. And kind of as you alluded to, there was this feeding frenzy, no pun intended, of all the sharks making multiple offers. I think we had like 12 to 14 different offers throughout our pitch. So it was just a surreal experience, and being on set, having everything kind of lead to this moment, it was definitely surreal.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I've watched a lot of episodes in prep because I was probably like you. Like, there's no possible way I was going in there unprepared. It was like every eventuality, everything that you can throw. That my partners, I'm like, anything you can throw at me, throw out weird questions that I would never know the answer to, and try to figure that out. But yeah, Robert falling off the bed and blooding his nose, like, and you guys did really well. I'm not sure how much of that was TV magic, because, one thing that people don't understand is that we're in there for longer than the, 12 to 15 minutes that they're showing on the episode. So how was it like without the TV magic. So he falls off. You guys were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, was there, did like they have the medics come in or anything? Did they like time out, or is he
No.
just,
So yeah, I mean that's a good question, and I think a lot of people that aren't familiar with TV production, maybe sometimes mistakenly think that 12-minute segment that they show on TV is like uncut, exactly how it happened. And Shark Tank really is the real deal. As you know, there's no like, okay, cut, let's redo that. Like it's a straight pitch.
Mhm.
So even though he fell and his nose was bloodied up, there was no cutting. There was no, someone intervening. We just kept rolling, and it was pretty wild. But we were able to recover from that. We were there for a while. I don't know exactly how long. It's kind of funny. Once we were done and we got off set, I was talking to someone on the crew, and it's like, wow, that was really quick. What was that, like 20 minutes? And the person's like, no, that was well over an hour. Like I think we were bordering on 2 hours, and it literally felt like this time warp. Like you just, it's like if you get caught up in a really good conversation and time just flies by, and it was like that. But yeah, I think the way it was portrayed on TV is really, really close to how we felt it went. Obviously they can't show the full
right?
hour, 90-minute segment. But that's pretty much, the vibe and how everything went.
So, so again, if you haven't watched, if you're listening and haven't watched the episode, you guys had fantastic numbers. I honestly, I think you could have been selling any. Your product is fantastic. I'm getting one. I tried the weighted blanket thing. It didn't work for me. But your thing, I mean, especially, I love my wife, but she is a blanket hog. So I'm like, man, this is like a perfect solution for me. But but I think you guys could have been peddling anything, and with the numbers that you guys had, they were salivating. It wasn't even a question. I mean, you could almost see it in their faces. They're like, "What? You did what?" With that amount of sales. So, can you share a little bit about your business, where it was? I mean, first of all, you guys bootstrapped. I mean, with a very low, a very low amount of money that you guys put in before you actually started making money, which is incredible. I want to learn from you about how you did that. But I think that's also valuable for our listeners too, because a lot of people feel that they have to get investors and they have to take out huge loans and all that stuff. And you guys started with a very modest sum. So, I mean, can you?
Yeah, and one thing I definitely want to get back to, and I want to say it out loud so I don't forget, but kind of the strategy of going into the tank with what you're going to be offering the sharks, that there is a lot of strategy that can go into it. So I just want to say that, and hopefully we can circle back to it so I don't forget. But the origin story for our company, Hug Sleep, is kind of unique. So okay, let me really back up and kind of give the whole story.
Sure.
And if I'm too long-winded, please feel free to jump in here. But so my background is in engineering. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I've worked in product design, most of my adult life. And I started working at Apple. I moved out to California, and I was working at the company, and I really, really enjoyed it. And that was the first time in my life that I really had this professional fulfillment. That I went to my 9 to 5, and I just absolutely loved it. And I was pretty young when I was working there, and it was just really energetic. But I was living on the West Coast. I was in a long-term relationship with my girlfriend at the time, my now wife. So professionally, I had never been that fulfilled before. But personally, I really didn't have any of that fulfillment because all my family, my friends, they were back here in the Midwest in Wisconsin. So I was getting married. And my wife said, the only way I'm going to marry you is if you're in the same time zone as me. So I was like, all right, time to move back to Wisconsin.
Smart woman.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I moved back to Wisconsin, and I found myself just working in this cubicle at this other job, just really bored, not being challenged at all. I desperately tried to get more roles and responsibilities in the company. And even though I had this pretty impressive resume and this great experience working at these tech companies and whatnot, oftentimes I would hear people say, like, quote, like, you don't have enough gray hair yet. Essentially saying you have all the experience, you could probably do this, but there's a lot of other people that are in line that, just been here longer. So I was always getting shot down, even though I really was confident that I could do these jobs. So because of that, I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit, and never really took the dive into starting my own company because I was waiting for that right idea, that right product to come along. So part of the equation was just not having any professional fulfillment in my life at the time. And then I was also always struggling with sleep. I've always been a lifelong troubled sleeper, just having difficulty falling asleep. I always have a million ideas going through my mind. So just to quiet my mind and fall asleep has always been a challenge for me. So I heard about weighted blankets a few years prior. And just the thought of having like this pressure on me really resonated. I thought maybe this is something that could really solve some of these issues that I have. So I purchased a weighted blanket and I tried it on, and I absolutely loved it. But very quickly, I ran into the all too common list of complaints that are typically associated with weighted blankets, that they overheat, they're really difficult to wash, you can't travel with them, and kind of the list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
So very quickly, I found this really expensive weighted blanket, fold up on the floor of my closet, just never to be used again. So I thought, maybe I could take this proven science behind weighted blankets, something called deep touch pressure therapy, and repackage it in a way that doesn't have these common drawbacks. So that idea popped into my head around that same time that I had this like 9 to 5 that I was just so bored with, and it was so soul crushing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to spend 5-10 hours a week and just look into this science and try to repackage it in a way that doesn't have those drawbacks that I mentioned. And it was just this side hustle. It was almost this experiment of like, okay, I want to learn new skills.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can come up with a new idea. So after about 8 months of iteration, I came up with a product that looks pretty similar to what we sell today. And it was a very rough early stage prototype. And I started using it every night, and my sleep got better. And I really didn't have too much intention of creating a company. But my wife my wife currently, said, you got to make one for me. I really want to try this. I sized one down for her. She loved it and said, you got to start selling this thing. So I launched a company, and this was just a side hustle that I was putting 10, 15 hours a week into. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And you talked about how we bootstrapped it. We're millennials, and like a lot of millennials, we have a lot of student loan debt. So my wife at that time said, you only have $2,500. We got to be frugal here. We're trying to pay down this debt, $2,500, and that's it. So don't come back to me asking for more money. So we spent most of that money on our first run of inventory. And just in this little office here, I had boxes and boxes of inventory with a really cruddy website and no money for marketing. I've never done any of this before. So I took a day off of work and I just went to Google and I typed in weighted blankets. I clicked on the little news tab, and I went through and I read every article, and I would write down the journalist's name. And then I go back to Google, try to find their email address. And at the end of the day, I had about 100 emails. And I sent off these emails to the email addresses, and I got like 2 responses. And one journalist was like, never email me again. Stop messaging me. And the other was a journalist from the New York Times. And she's like, yeah, I'm actually going to be writing a story on weighted blankets soon. This sounds really interesting. Send me a product for review. So I sent it to her, and she covered it. And that was kind of the launch of our company. And that was in March of 2019. And since then, it's just been this kind of explosive growth and just been a wild ride.
That is an incredible story. I mean, first of all, you said so much just in the last like 3 minutes there. So, the fact that you sent out 100. I mean, the work that you did to find those 100 email addresses. Again, I'm sure it didn't take you days. I mean, I'm sure it was an afternoon and doing that, but that cost you nothing other than your time. And so a lot of companies think, oh, I need to go out and spend money on ads. I need to spend money on, to your point about your website, a gorgeous website, $20,000 website or whatever the case may be, and you did it with an afternoon and emails, to get some press off of your product. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah, and to your point, it took me a day, and to get those 100 emails, it took way longer than I expected. I was like, I'll get it done in a few hours, and it was like probably 20 hours. But to your point, it's free. It's just sitting in front of your computer, I put my phone in the other room so I wouldn't be distracted. And it's like, okay, like and I think the thing for me is I had so much pressure because it was like this weird idea, and ideas in their infancy are really fragile. And all it takes is telling one person about this crazy idea you have, and them saying, "Oh, that's stupid."
Right.
And very quickly, that idea, you're like, "Oh yeah, you're right. Why would I put myself out there like this?" Yeah, and that idea will get shelved and never touched again. So when I had this idea for the product, I told my wife about it, and that was about it. I didn't tell my family or my friends. Not that they're not supportive, but it's just like, so many people talk about wanting to be an entrepreneur. So many people want to, start a business, and everyone talks and they talk and they talk and they talk, and no one does anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to fall into that trap. So, part of the pressure was I pursued this idea for about a year. I got, my first run of inventory. It was like 100, 150 units. And I just had boxes like covering this entire office. And I felt like an idiot because I have these boxes and I launched this website. And I don't know what I thought. Like maybe as soon as you press live on the website, like everyone's gonna be flocking there. Well,
like you sitting there waiting for the first order. Like, is it coming?
Yeah. And it's funny because I did everything myself, and I don't know how to create a website. So I don't like reading, so I go to YouTube and just watch videos.
Yep.
and so there was kind of this pressure where the website goes live, it looks terrible, and there's like not a single visitor for like days, and then there'd be like one, and it's probably like some mistake. So I was like, all right, now I got to find a way to sell these. And we maybe had like $100 left of the 2,500 that we started with. And I was like, okay, I'll just email people. Like, why not? And it worked. So the one article we had in the New York Times, to this day, it's kind of the only review we've had that isn't totally positive. Like, it's positive, but like she kind of made fun of it a little bit.
Okay.
And it was so a little bit of the backstory is I spoke with the woman on the phone and kind of walked her through the company and the product itself. And she's like, great, send it to me and I'll write up the story, and then it has to go and get approved, and then it has to get edited. And then, it's going to be like 6 weeks before the story comes out. So I'm like, great, I have 6 weeks to get my crap together here, to create a website, to come up with a name for the product, to come up with a name for the company and all this stuff. So I started hustling. And, it comes to like naming the product. And I was like, I don't know what to name it. I'll just call it Sleep Pod. That's just like a placeholder for now. Like, and I'll just, get back to it. Well, the article ended up coming out like several days later. It wasn't 6 weeks. It was like a week later. And I woke up one Sunday morning and I got a notification on my phone, like, you sold a product. And it was the first one. I was like, how the hell did I sell one? Like, the story isn't coming out. And I'm checking my
who's
phone.
Who's this person that found us?
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, maybe like my wife told one of her friends, and the friend, went and bought one out of pity.
You're like, Grandma? Did Grandma buy one?
Yeah.
I
was like, maybe my mom told, one of her, I don't know. So I get one sale, and then another and another and another and another. And I think we ended up selling our entire inventory from that one story. And from that, we got a lot of press. A lot of journalists reached out and said, hey, this is cool. I saw the New York Times. Can I review it? And Fast Company reached out to us and said same thing. Yeah. And that article did really, really well. And it was just kind of this explosion. One story leads to, and 3 other journalists wanted to cover it. And then those 3 articles lead to 10 people. And it was just kind of this multiplier effect. And funny enough, we had Fast Company cover us like 2-3 weeks into business, and that article blew up. And after that one in particular, we had a lot of people reaching out to us, and we had a lot of people trying to scam us. People saying, hey, I'm this distributor in like Saudi Arabia. If you send me 100 free product, I'll get you, this. And then you look at their email and it's like clearly a scam. And one person reached out to us and said, hey, I'm an executive producer at Shark Tank. I'd love to have you on the show. Can you send me a free product and we'll get you on the show? And I looked at his email address, and it was like a weird email address. And I was like, okay, this is clearly a scam. And I never responded to the guy. And a year later, we had another article come out, and the same guy emailed us on that same thread and was like, hey, man, I emailed you a year ago, and I still haven't heard from you. We still really want you on the show. And it was like he sent all these multiple paragraphs. I was like, man, this scammer is really dedicated to trying to get a free product. Like, I at least owe it to him to like respond. So I responded to the guy and I said, yeah, I'd love to be on the show, but I'm kind of skeptical with who you say you are. Can you prove your identity? And this guy sent a photo back of him holding 4 Emmys, and then a separate photo of like a sign that had our company name on it, I think. And I was like, oh my God, he's actually from the show. This is real. And that's what started our journey onto Shark Tank.
It's funny because it's kind of rare. We had them reach out to us as well, and we thought it
Okay.
was a joke. So,
Yeah.
we had been in business for 4 years. We were growing. And of course,
Mhm.
you guys got on, I guess, relatively early in your business life cycle. We were
Mhm.
we were already kind of a mature business, or on our way to being more of a mature business. And
Mhm.
but the thing we heard all the time was like, you should go on Shark Tank. You should go on Shark Tank. As an
Yeah.
inventor, you hear that.
Yeah.
And so they reached out to us, and we same thing. We ignored it the first time,
Mhm.
and then we got a second email, and then we got the phone call that came up like Sony Pictures. I'm like, wow, this must be real. Like, okay, like I guess we
Yeah.
should return this phone call. But
That's funny.
it's again, your story is, to me, what young entrepreneurs, and when I say young, I just mean that they haven't really made that big step into. They need to
Mhm.
hear that. Again, a couple things. I mean, you solved the problem. You knew that there was a problem because you were experiencing the problem, right? And
Mhm.
you had this great idea, which was relatively simple. I mean,
Yeah.
no offense, your product is
No.
is a simple product, much like my product blocks
Mhm.
bugs. There's not much to it,
Yeah.
but you had a simple solution to a common problem, and then you just had to get the word out, and you didn't
Mhm.
go out and mortgage your house over it. You can do
Yeah.
it as a side hustle, and a lot of times you should. At least
Mhm.
that's my opinion.
Yeah, and to touch on that too, I've kind of always had this entrepreneurial spirit, and I've always had ideas for businesses, but they were always, the idea for the product was always kind of this monumental task to get there.
Hmm.
So with our product Sleep Pod, with Hug Sleep, it checked off so many boxes for us. It's this like lightweight product, so it's easy to ship. You can manufacture it locally. It's high margin. It's a product that is easy to make. It's in this space that's really hot, the sleep wellness. It just checked off all these boxes for us, where it's like, if I want to create, some gadget, like the tooling costs, are going to be so expensive. You're going to have to find multiple manufacturers of different parts. You're going to, it seems like such a high barrier to cross. And with this invention of mine, it was like, okay, this would be pretty easy to do, where we could launch it with $2,500. So, it was a combination of a lot of things, but just because it was able to check off all those boxes, that really kind of pushed me to pursue this idea over, some of the other ones I've had in the past.
Yeah, it's interesting because your story and mine are completely opposing. For us, the we had over $1 million invested before one product
Hmm.
came off the line. So it
Yeah.
was completely the opposite. It started out the same. Doing it in my garage, a little side thing, just a hobby. Trying to,
Hmm.
but and an ugly prototype, that simple ugly prototype,
Sure.
and but I needed to make a much bigger jump than you. But I think that again, either way that you go, you have to check the appropriate boxes for your
Hmm.
product and what you're trying to accomplish, and you have to have those boxes, right? For you, it
Hmm.
was, to your point, inexpensive, high margins, easy to ship, and low
Hmm.
investment to get started.
Yep.
For us, I was in the window and door industry, so it was, hey, I had a bunch of feedback. I had letters from window manufacturers saying this is great, and all those types of
Hmm.
things. So again, checking off boxes that were necessary for me and my investors. So
Yeah, absolutely. And by being able to check those boxes off, I had a lot more confidence jumping into this industry, jumping into, kicking off this journey, and kind of going into Shark Tank with the numbers that we did. Uh, you know, I kept saying to my wife, I said, I hope we're not going to be a William Hung, and he's the guy that was on American Idol that, everyone told him, you're a great singer, you're a great singer. And then he gets up and he was only on the show for them to make fun of. And while Shark Tank doesn't really do that, I was just, I kind of had this self-doubt of like, are they just having us on the show because like, this is really weird? But we had the numbers, and we have, as cheesy as it sounds, one of the highlights of this journey has been hearing from our customers where this product truly helps them. And, not only has it kind of solved our own sleep issues, but just hearing from these people that suffer from, insomnia or just can't get a good night's sleep, having this change their life is just been this incredibly rewarding experience. So going into the show is like, even if things are disastrous, like I'll sleep well at night, no pun intended, knowing that like it's a product that does really help people. And it just, turned out to be a really great experience on the show.
So what has scaling taught you? I mean, because I have to imagine from when you aired to where you are now, things have to have exploded. Like I said, I looked at it and I'm like, I need one of those. So I have to imagine that there were millions of other people that felt the same way. So I mean, what growing pains have you been going through? What's that like?
Yeah, so with the show, it aired October 30th, and we ended up getting a deal with Mark and Lori, and we did close on that deal. So we had some time to prepare from when we shot it to when it aired, just a few months. And we were working with both of their teams, trying to understand a forecast for what we could expect. And from what I've heard, it's really difficult to predict that you could have, the best pitch ever, the best product ever, and it can sometimes fall flat, the week of, the night of and week of for sales. And vice versa, you could have, something that doesn't go very well and a product that doesn't seem all that great, and it can just explode. So we were given, kind of rough estimates, best guesses. On the low end, maybe we'd sell 2,000 units for the week of. On the high end, maybe 4,000. And if you're really, really lucky, maybe 5,000 units. And within the first week between what we sold and the wait list that we had to implement, I think we sold something like 60,000 units.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was just insane. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And we sold out of inventory within minutes. And we had prepared and put all of our free cash flow into inventory, and we still sold out instantly. We had to implement a wait list, and that wait list just kept growing and growing and growing. So, I mean, we prior to that, we had done about $500,000 in sales our entire life of the company, about 16 months, and then within just a few months of airing, we've done like 6.5 million. So it's just insane, the growth that we've experienced. And I like to say we're a 1.5 person company. So I run the company full time, but my wife still works as a therapist full time. So she still puts in 20, 30 hours a week every week outside of her normal 9 to 5. But we are just this 1.5 person company.
What's funny, again, for those that are listening, you might not realize that, yes, we closed our deal with Lori Grenier, you with Lori and Mark. So I guess we're kind of like cousins, I guess, or something like that.
Yeah,
but
like step brothers. Yeah.
But they're not in the middle of the day to day. It's not like Lori isn't packing boxes for you or making screens for me. We still have to run our businesses. They're there as a resource. They're there to help out in certain aspects, but they're not. We still have all of the pain points associated with growing a business. So Shark Tank it's not a big advantage from that side.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think for us, obviously it gave us a lot of visibility and also validity too. Just to be able to say that you were on Shark Tank is huge. After we initially aired and things slowly kind of calmed down, word got out to one of the kind of the head honcho at Shark Tank about some of the numbers that we had done. And we actually got kind of a rare same season update.
Cool.
So we had an update segment that aired March 12th, which was, I think, like the 12th episode of the season or something close to that. And even from that, we saw a big increase in sales. So we've been really fortunate every time that we've been on the show that, the numbers are pretty good.
So what's next for you guys? So, are you looking at some big boxes? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, we've been approached by a few big retailers. We're moving slow in terms of going into retail. We're going direct to consumer right now through our website and Amazon, and things are going very well for us. And obviously, we love having those margins and that data. So we're really doubling down on that. I think our foundation, like a lot of e-commerce companies, are really built around Facebook, Instagram, Google,
Hmm.
YouTube, kind of those social channels for running PPC campaigns. So we're really kind of establishing that foundation and really solidifying it. So that's, I think, the thing that we're focused on the most for 2021. I think with 2022 we'll start to explore retail and see if there could be some good fits. But we're not in any rush to expand those sales channels just yet. We really want to be methodical with who we partner with, because demand has just been so. It's kind of like I'm a big believer in focus and focusing all your efforts into what works. I've seen so many case studies and stories of companies that grow too quickly and it starts to fall apart. So just trying to have that laser focus.
Man, that's another great piece of advice for people that are listening. If you do start a business and you do start seeing it grow, it's not all about growth. It's
Hmm.
I even see some entrepreneurs that lose themselves a little bit through their business.
Sure.
It's not just the focus of the business and things falling apart, but home life.
Hmm.
Working with a spouse can be stressful. Those types of things and can put tension on
Hmm.
relationships and so keeping your eye on what is important to you within your business and then personal life is huge as well. So again, I admire what you're doing and having the patience that you have is, man, that's an attribute that not a lot of people have.
Yeah, I think there's two schools of thought in like modern day e-commerce companies, and one is kind of what we're doing, kind of this methodical growth, and the other extreme is hyper growth, where you look at your break even cost, and as long as you can sell a product for break even, just continue to pour money onto ad spend. Try to get to that 10, 20, $30 million in sales, and your net profit may be 100 grand, because it costs you $99 to sell 100, $99 to find a customer for $100 product.
Right.
And the idea is get to huge revenue, scale back, and hopefully your sales maintain, or you exit and sell for a big valuation. And it's kind of like lighting the fuse on a rocket with not having a great way to steer it. Like
Right.
once it takes off, it's if it's going the wrong direction, it's really hard to course correct when you're spending that much money. So historically, early on, we were really conservative with that growth trajectory, kind of slow and steady while uh, remaining highly profitable. And that really helped us on the show to be able to go in and lay down the numbers that we had. Um, any doubt that the Shark Tank investors had, we were able to curb that with our numbers. Numbers don't lie. And you can kind of see that on the show with some of the footage that aired with Kevin O'Leary asking, okay, how much education is required to the customers for them to actually purchase the product? Well, our cost of acquisition is $11.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that ends that conversation really quickly. So I think if we would have gone in that opposite direction of hyper growth at any cost, there would still be a lot of doubt from the investors. Like, okay, sure, you can get great numbers, but you're not making any money. Um, so I think each company is different, and one strategy might work for another, and one might not for a different company. But yeah, I think we're just really focused on steady cash flow and a strong foundation with our business.
Well, good for you. I'm proud to be stepbrothers with you. But any last thoughts before we end our conversation?
I remembered. I want to get back
Oh
to
yeah,
just one brief thing about strategy that I
yeah.
don't hear people talk about often with Shark Tank, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this too.
Okay.
So as you go into the show, you come up with an offer. I'll give away 10% of my company for 100 grand, whatever it is. And the sharks, I believe, have to make you an offer that is at that same amount of cash. It can't be below that amount.
Right.
So if some people will kind of make this flaw where they'll go in and say, I want $1 million for 5% of my company. Well, the sharks want more, and it's a whole back and forth. We went into it and we purposely devalued the value of the company so that it wouldn't be a sticking point. And my thought was, this is going to be the greatest infomercial ever for our company. And I don't want to give them footage of us battling valuation and take up a lot of time on the show. I'd rather have the segment be focused on the product and our story. So we purposely cut our valuation probably by about a third. And I think it paid off. So that was something that I was really proud about, that I don't think a lot of people realize how much strategy goes into kind of coming up with that valuation in your ask.
Yeah, there is. And I had a chance to talk with some of the entrepreneurs that filmed at the same week that I filmed. And some of them were so ridiculous with their valuations.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my goodness. We had, again, we were a bigger company. We had done, a round of funding not long before and so we had a valuation company come in and really doing a correct valuation. So we knew going in, where our line in the sand was, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think that you guys nailed it with what you did. I think that doing it the opposite way is so short-sighted. You know what I mean? Especially now that we've been through the whole thing, and you look back and you're like,
sure,
what would I do different? I think a lot of companies going on there have great products, have a great story, and then they had no idea of the financial model that they had there that gave them a wrong valuation, or they were just making it up. I mean, there were some people that they just had, one of the people I talked to, I'm like, where did you get that? And they're like, I don't know. It's just what we think it's worth. I'm like, is that, but you have 50,000 in sales. You're putting an $8 million valuation on your company. I'm not sure where you're coming up with that. But it was just, they guessed. And to me, I just wasn't going to, I wasn't going to go out there and get blasted. One of the things, again, that people don't understand with the show is there's a lot of talk about the financial side that doesn't make it onto TV. It's just not, it's not exciting. It's not sexy at all. So even though, I got beat up a little bit with the valuation, but they didn't see the hour, I was in there for about a little over 2.5 hours. There was over an hour conversation about our financials to where they understood it, you know what I mean? So that they, but the drama is, dun, 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 your valuation's bad, so, but
and I think for larger companies that are going into it, you obviously, especially if you have investors, you don't want to devalue the company and piss off all your other investors. But for us, it was like, okay, we're a small company, and either this is going to explode and be incredibly successful, or it won't be. So if we were to double the valuation, it would only result in an extra $150,000, which is a lot of money, but that money's going into the business. It's not going into my pocket.
Right.
So it's like, okay, what is that in the long run? Either this is going to be, a $10 million, $50 million company or more, or it's not. So in the long run, who cares? Right. So we were able to go in with that strategy, but it was a great experience being on the show, and I'm really happy I responded to that scam email.
Like I said, I'm so impressed with what you guys have done, and man, I can't wait to get on, order mine, and try to get a good night's sleep. So there you go. Before we sign off, can you give the website and any other information so that somebody can order if they're interested?
Yeah, so our company is Hug Sleep. Google us. You'll find us everywhere on different social channels under Hug Sleep. But yeah, you can go to our website, hugsleep.com, and hopefully you'll get a better night's sleep with our product. We guarantee it. The 30 days.
Yeah, and I can also say that if you haven't watched the episode, I think it just dropped off of Hulu, so it'll be back here again. But definitely check out the episode. Seeing Robert get a bloody nose is man, that's classic. That's going to be one that goes down in the books there of the Shark Tank history.
and he still made us an offer too. So he loved the product that much.
So, well, anyway, thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate all your time.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Lessons from the Tank. If you got value from today's podcast, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast so you're notified when a new episode is posted. If you'd like to support our podcast, we encourage you to review it and share it with a friend. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.